So it's been a while since I've actually made a video, and even longer since I properly had a video project. The last one I had was my football documentary, and that was a year ago now. Now, there have been a number of reasons for the lack of uploads in the past year, and the main one does consist of actually having a full-time job. Now, I don't like leaving my channel dormant for months on end, but I really haven't had the motivation or inspiration to constantly make videos until now. So, if you know me in real life, then you know that I can get fixated on certain anime and games that I have recently watched or played. And this has happened with Negima, with Doki Doki Literature Club, and the most recent one of these obsessions comes in the form of NieR Automata, which, if you read the title of this video, then you'll know that already. So, as you can see by my current attire, I really like this game, and you should take that in mind as I'm probably going to be a little bit biased when it comes to the review segment. Speaking of, if you would like to skip to just that part of the video, make sure to go ahead and click on the annotation. You can't do annotations anymore, actually, so go to this point in the video if you want to skip out all of the plot, if you didn't want to get spoiled for anything if you plan on playing this game. But if you don't mind about spoilers, then by all means continue on. Let's dive in to the story of NieR Automata. It's the year 11,945 where humanity is dead. Okay, not really, they're on the moon because Earth is overrun by machine lifeforms created by aliens to wipe out the humans centuries ago. Still with me? Cool. In order to defend themselves, humans created the androids. And out of these androids, the elites, known as NieR, are tasked with ending the war and killing the aliens and the machine lifeforms. So we start off with Unit 2B and her squadron infiltrating an abandoned factory to take down a Goliath-class machine. That's a really big machine, in case you were wondering. It doesn't go off to a good start, as only 2B survives the initial assault. She continues anyway and encounters part of the Goliath machine, which is destroyed with the help of 9S, a scanner unit sent to support 2B. After making their way through the factory, they find the target, only for 9S to take serious damage protecting 2B. Great job there. After taking his flight unit, 2B is able to finish off the machine for good. But there's 4 more of them. Deciding that she really can't be bothered anymore, 2B whips out her black box and uses self-destruct. It was super effective. And that's NieR Automata. Okay, not really. Before the kamikaze, 9S uploaded 2B's data to the bunker, which is their kind of space station thing, which is inaccurately named because bunkers are meant to be underground. So her memories will be safe should her current body be destroyed. 9S doesn't have enough time to back himself up, and hence he doesn't have any knowledge of actually meeting 2B when they actually arrive back in the bunker. Some time passes and 9S has been put in charge of 2B's maintenance. After a bit of light flirting, the pair embark in their next mission. They are to report to the resistance camp and offer support. After flying down to the surface and completing a few basic side quests in the camp, the leader sends the pair to the desert to help clear out some machines. After a resistance member called Jackass grants access by blowing up the gate, the two promptly begin destroying all these machines. One of them actually realises that they're quite outmatched here and decides to run for it. Upon chasing this robot, the pair are actually shocked to find more machines, but mimicking human mating rituals. Interesting. A quick fusion of all of these machines, and they produce what to be a humanoid machine. Clearly alarmed by this, and by the lack of clothing, 2B and 9S quickly impale the bugger from both sides. This doesn't work, as one crawls out of the other corpse. Jesus Christ, that is horrifying. With a voice only a mother could love, the machine screams so loudly that the cavern starts to collapse. 2B and 9S decide that getting crushed is not particularly a good idea and make a swift exit. They report these two machines back to command, who give an answer best described as, With their mission in the desert complete, they are sent to an amusement park to investigate some black box signals of some NieR troops. Sure enough, 2B and 9S quickly make their way through this park to find a Goliath-class opera singer. Yeah, you thought this machine's voice was bad? This one literally hacks into androids. I didn't think a voice could do that, but apparently I've been proven wrong. Thanks to 9S and his hacking, 2B finishes the fight with a good old-fashioned laser beam to the chest. With the battle concluded, a flying machine bearing a white flag appears. It leads our protagonists to a village of peaceful machines. We are introduced to Pascal, the leader of this village. So not only have these machines been living peacefully, they've also been trading supplies with the resistance camp. You would think that this would be an important piece of information that they'd tell us, yet it seems reasonable for them to keep that from us. What the fuck? To prove its peaceful nature, we do some fetch quests. Fun. Upon returning, the ruins are attacked by 2 Goliath-class units, the same ones that we fought at the beginning of the game. Clearly we must have powered up a lot since the first fight, because the first one goes down without any effort at all, and the second one tries to pull the same self-destruct tactic that we used. It wasn't very effective, because guess what? We're flying. This does cause the city to cave inwards, and with that all the android systems begin going nuts. Aliens have been detected. Whoop-de-doo! So it turns out that the aliens have been underground. How these super advanced androids were unable to detect them for thousands of years is beyond me, but sure, let's go with that. Upon entering the new cave system, 2B and 9S come across the ruins of alien spaceships, filled with alien corpses. We don't have to wait long for answers, as the 2 humanoid machines from the desert show up, now with snazzy jeans. They explain that the aliens were killed thousands of years ago. But whom, may you ask? The machines. They got smart and didn't like to be bossed around and killed them. The pair of machines called themselves Adam and Eve. Yes, they searched up the Bible. I'm not kidding, it's literally mentioned in the first book. Anyway, Adam is fascinated by humans and wants 2B to give them their location on the moon. Naturally, 2B says no, and the pair give up and leave. Not really knowing what to do next, 2B and 9S report back to command. They don't really know what to do either, and so they're just kind of asked to monitor the machine's behaviour. They make their way to a dense forest and a castle after directions from Pascal, apparently a new passive group with a king. Well, 2B finds the king, and it's a little baby, which is promptly destroyed by an android. Not by 2B or 9S, mind you, but a new one which looks remarkably like 2B but with longer hair and clearly an attitude problem. After a brief fight, she makes a run for it, and we head back to Pascal to ask some questions. Apparently, the android was named A2. The resistance camp asks for support on defending a missile by the coast. Upon arriving, Yorha gets a distress signal from a supply ship being attacked by a fleet of machines and Goliath classes. So with flight units acquired, the 2 head off to provide backup. Or a whole army, apparently, because the machines are taken down in a matter of minutes. That wasn't it though, as a Goliath class the size of a skyscraper appears. It takes an army of flight units, 3 mortar shots, and a nuke to finally kill it. 2B and 9S are separated during this fight, and 2B gets a scanner to try and find his black box signal. This leads her black box down to a huge cavern in a completely white city. During this time, Adam somehow captured 9S while unconscious and proceeds to mentally screw with him until 2B arrives. Adam, I'm trying to keep this video PG. Anyway, 2B arrives, confronting Adam one-on-one, but since he's basically immortal since he's connected to the machine network, 2B struggles. Adam, however, wants to understand the concept of death, and such disconnects himself from the network. Not wasting a chance, she finishes Adam for the last time. 9S is saved, and is sent back to the bunker for repairs. Now, this is the first main story sequence where 2B and 9S have got different plot points going on at the same time. So 9S decides to do a complete system reboot to make sure that there are no traces of Adam in his system. Before connecting to the Yorha network, however, he hears a strange sound. Not wanting to risk anything, he halts all data transfers for himself as well as 2B. Hoping to find answers, he enters the Yorha unit's main server, only to find some interesting files. One of the files talks about Project Yorha and the Council of Humanity, which is the human leaders on the moon. The document states that it was actually Yorha which created the Council, not the other way round like 9S is meant to believe. Alarmed by this, he seeks out the commander and demands answers. So 9S is horrified to learn that the humans have never been on the moon. They died way before the aliens attacked. which means that the machines and the androids have been fighting a war that doesn't even exist. During this time, 2B meets up with Pascal and joins him in a peace negotiation between Pascal's village and a faction that's been located in the factory. This turns south pretty damn quick as half the machines start going berserk. With negotiations aborted, 2B and Pascal escape the factory with hacking assistance from 9S. 9S caught wind of the attack after the conversation with the commander. After escaping and killing a giant Pokeball, it turns out that it isn't just the group in the factory, it's half of all machines. Pascal goes back to his village to check on everyone there. Alone. Yeah, because that's a really good idea and definitely isn't going to go wrong at any point in the near future. Like clockwork, 2B gets a distress call from the resistance camp which is being attacked. They're cleared out with no effort, which really makes you wonder how effective the resistance actually is. And suddenly, another Goliath! Quick fight later, and suddenly Kamikaze 9S. Will you guys stop falling from the sky? The machine is dead. Oh wait, now it's a big ball of scrap. Oh! Now it's a tentacle of scrap. Heading for Pascal's village. Anyway, taking down the machine for the third time, we are finally greeted with the source. Eve. So Adam and Eve each control 50% of the machine network, and with Adam's death, his 50% became independent. The 50% still in Eve's control become effective when Eve loses control of himself after losing Adam. With one final fight, 2B and 9S take Eve down by disconnecting Eve from the network thanks to 9S's hacking. Not all is over. With one final attack, Eve corrupts 9S when he was inside Eve's network. 9S, as a last request, orders 2B to end his life before the Eve virus can spread. She unwillingly complies after protest, but she knows what she has to do. 2B is left alone on the battlefield, being the lone victor. Not really, 9S is now a big boy. Roll credits. Wait, what? So guess what? NieR Automata has multiple endings! 27 of them! What? Okay, it's not that bad. Only 5 of the endings are actually important, all the rest are just kind of joke endings. When you finish your first playthrough as 2B, you end up replaying that story but as 9S and going through his kind of plot important things. If you do it a third time on Route C, then that's when the new juicy content arrives. So let's go right into that now. With Adam and Eve gone, the machine network is defenseless, and Yorha decides to launch an all-out attack to end the war once and for all. 9S is given the task of clearing any anti-air turrets from the area, while 2B is gearing up. Upon reaching the surface, 2B and 9S team up as a support group. The attack is going well, until it isn't. An EMP attack leaves the group completely immobilized. It's only thanks to 9S that himself and 2B regain composure, but things aren't going well as the other androids have become infected and have turned on 2B and 9S. In order to protect themselves, 9S hacks into 2B, causing her ID system to malfunction, allowing them to fight the corrupt androids. The black boxes are used once again to destroy the horde of androids and machines, as well as getting back to the bunker. The commander is pissed that the two ditched front lines, but is quick to re-evaluate the situation when the virus starts spreading in the bunker. The commander orders 2B and 9S to get to the hangar to get to a flight unit, but it is too late for the commander as she's been infected too. With her last command, she orders the two to survive, and with that, the bunker self-destructs. Now, it's established throughout the game that in order to get back to the bunker with the unit's memories, you need to either fly there, get transported, or make sure that the data is backed up before destruction. Since 2B and 9S used the black box detonation, it means they needed to have a backup. Only problem is that 9S disconnected the two from the network, making a backup impossible. Which means they wouldn't have knowledge to warn the command, making this whole section absolute bull. 2B and 9S are pursued on their escape and are separated. 2B crashes and becomes infected by the virus, gained from the prior attack. She attempts to find a cure, but is badly infected. Out of nowhere, 2B swoops in and destroys the nearby machines. With 2B's final breaths, she asks A2 to protect 9S and accept 2B's memory files. Taking 2B's sword in hand, A2 impales 2B, with 9S witnessing in horror. With 2B now dead, 9S attempts to go for A2, but an earthquake destroys the bridge that he's on, causing him to fall down the ravine and also knocking A2 out. The earthquake is caused by a really big tower that emerges from the centre of the ruins. Someone must have reactivated the Sheikah Slate in Breath of the Wild. 9S wakes up in the resistant camps thanks to Devola and Popola. I kinda skimmed over these two characters, but these are the two that actually made the scanner for 2B and are returning characters from the original NieR. Now, I've not completed the original game, but I do know that they play a much larger role in that one. 9S is now getting increasingly unstable following 2B's death and vows to destroy all machines. From this point on, it gets a little repetitive. 9S goes to the tower to learn that you actually need 3 keys to gain access, or only 1 if you actually know how this game was coded. These keys are located in 3 different floating structures called resource recovery units. So 9S goes to each one and gains their respective keys. Each one has a theme. The first one is just a bunch of enemies. The second is all about hacking, and the last one is a mixture of the two of them. 9S's mental state plummets when he learns that Yorha black boxes are made from machine cores, and is later attacked by corrupted operator 210. Another part I've glazed over is that both 2B and 9S had androids in the bunker acting as technical support. 2B has 60 and 9S has 210. You can have a few chats with them when you're in the bunker, and they'll occasionally start conversations with you on the surface. You can also do a few quests for them. 9S has to kill 210, but the finishing blow is actually dealt by A2. Oh, I forgot about her. Before 9S starts collecting keys, A2 wakes up with 2B's pod nagging her of her intentions. Clearly getting pissed off, A2 heads to the desert to take out a Goliath-class machine. She succeeds, but at the cost of a fuel filter. A2 begrudgingly heads to the resistance camp to find one, but is out of luck. The group leader, an enemy, who knew A2 back when she was first deployed, points her in the direction of Pascal, who A2 actually bumped into on the way into the camp. A2 isn't happy with all this, but gets the resources for Pascal. Upon returning to the village, she finds that the machines have gone rogue, and are eating other machines. Why this happens is never actually explained, but Pascal and A2 take the remaining machines to hide in the factory. You know, the same place where the last bunch of machines went rogue. This lasts a whole 5 seconds, and A2 and Pascal go out to protect the good machines. In one of the coolest parts of the game, Pascal operates a Goliath-class unit to take down another Goliath-class unit. Unfortunately, the good machines are so scared that they all commit suicide. Obviously distraught, Pascal asks A2 to completely wipe his memories, which A2 sadly complies with. At this point, 9S has reached the 3rd resource recovery unit, and this is where we're all caught up, which is why A2 is where she is. So with A2 and 9S now together, 9S begins to attack, but is once again denied when a machine interrupts. 9S then makes his way to the tower, but can't get in because machines are preventing 9S from actually being able to hack it. This is where Devola and Popola enter to help protect 9S while he hacks in. He is successful, but is still prevented access. Popola then sacrifices herself by throwing herself into the barrier, short-circuiting it, while Devola throws him inside. Upon entering, he is greeted by a dozen corrupted 2B units, and as you can imagine, he goes insane.
I'll tear you apart. Every last one of you!
One of the 2B units self-destructs, blowing off 9S's arm, which he then replaces with one of the corrupt 2B arms. At this point, A2 has also made her way into the tower and is also making her way up. On the way, A2 is hacked by the machine consciousness of the tower, which she beats by overloading it, which is apparently a thing. A Goliath attacks each of the androids, where upon reaching the top of the tower, fuses together. A2 and 9S temporarily team up to kill this thing in one of the most chaotic battles in the game. With the machine destroyed, it is just A2 and 9S left. During the ascent of the tower, 9S learns of the true purpose of Project Yorha. It was basically an entire cover-up to hide the fact that the humans were extinct upon the failure of Project Gestalt. I would go further into this, but I feel like it'd be a lot easier to be explained when talking about the original NieR game. Project Yorha was always designed to be corrupted if they were ever too close to winning the war, and with them corrupted, all of the surface resources were then recovered, and combined with the combat data from Yorha, a new generation was made. This cycle would repeatedly evolve the machines, and basically repeat until there were no resources left, and the machines were just too strong for the resistance to handle, which, if we're looking at it, seems to already be the case. 9S tells A2 that it's all pointless as Yorha isn't required anymore. A2 then tells 9S the truth about 2B. As it turns out, 2B wasn't actually a B-type android. She was an E-type android, which stood for Executioner. She was specific in killing other Yorha androids. She would always be paired with 9S because he was so smart that he would always find out about the humans. So when 9S learnt this truth, 2B killed him and his memories reset. Over time, 2B began to actually like him and hated killing him over and over again, as he would never actually remember her, which is why 2B clenches her fists way back in the very first mission of the game. This also explains 2B's cold nature. She didn't want to get too attached to him. This is heartbreaking to find out, but 9S doesn't care at this point as the virus has corrupted him. Here, the player is given a choice to play as either 9S or A2. If you choose A2, you'll get ending C, and ending D for 9S. It doesn't matter which you choose, as both characters die in both endings, and neither are the true ending. By completing both endings C and D, 9S and 2B's pods will start communicating during the credits, and you'll be given the option to break the cycle of Project Yorha by saving the data of A2, 2B, and 9S. Should you choose yes, you are greeted with ending E, and a very challenging bullet tail representing the virus that's deleting all the memories of Project Yorha. Upon completion, 2B, 9S, and A2 are all rebuilt by the pods, and the cycle of Project Yorha has ended, as too has the story of NieR Automata. So while I really enjoy the story, there are a few nitpicks that I have. The main one being to do with the relevancy of Project Yorha, and by that I mean its complete irrelevancy. Without going too much into the plot of the first game, the Deviler and Poplar twins are basically blamed for the extinction of humanity, and as a result, all of those units were destroyed except for the two that we see in this game. As a further punishment, their memories were wiped and were programmed to always feel guilt. As tragic as this is, it proves that both android emotions, and more importantly, memories, can be changed. So why don't they just collectively delete all the memories of humanity and call it a day? I realise it probably isn't as simple as that, but surely it would have been simpler than what they're currently doing. And yes, I know that without this overly complicated plan we wouldn't really have a game to play, but since it's part of the story I'm allowed to have nitpicks about it, and speaking of story, we've been on that section for over 20 minutes, so let's actually get on with the review. So at face value, NieR Automata is a glorified hack and slash that likes to switch up the gameplay style depending on the character and story progression, to keep things fresh. During your adventure, you'll play as either 2B, 9S, and much later down the line, A2. All three of these characters have, similar movesets and abilities. You've got your standard light and heavy attacks, double jumps which you can hold down to glide downwards. You can also dash, which doubles as an evade button, which if pressed at just the right time, allows you to perform a perfect dodge, allowing for a quick counter. Each character also has access to a pod, which allows for long range attacks and a few special ones which you can unlock down the line. 2B is the first character you play as, and is the basic one in terms of moves. 9S basically plays the same, however his heavy attack has been replaced by the ability to hack into machines and certain objects. Hacking a machine may give you the ability to take control of it. I say it may, because most of the time it'll just explode without giving you any options. Apparently you can only control enemies that aren't aggroed on you, but I swear this isn't the case because that's failed me multiple times at this point. The actual hacking minigame is pretty simple, you've kind of seen it all though after the first few attempts. A2 basically plays the same as 2B, which does make sense considering some plot points. She does have a heavy attack and has a slightly different variation of the dash. She also has a berserker mode which enables her to increase speed and base attack at the cost of her HP being drained. It does have a bit of a small self-destruct effect upon activation, which is pretty handy. This is also very broken, especially in speedruns of the game, because as long as you actually have health pickups, you can just keep spamming them and you can stay in this form for a very long time. The game has a problem while teaching you more advanced moves. For example, you can hover in the air for a little bit while you're gliding downwards by pressing Y, and you can be flung forward by your pods by pressing A and RB at the same time. By pressing your heavy attack right after you jump, you can actually gain a little bit of extra height, and your down attack is also changed depending on what type of weapon you have equipped. Having knowledge of these abilities makes travel so much better, especially in the early game. Without them, you'll be stopping and starting all over the places, and some cases you won't be able to reach certain areas at all. For example, there's an island in the coast area with a hidden weapon, and without these abilities, you will not be able to get to this island at all. I wouldn't mind if these abilities were taught you later on in the game, since it will give you something to look forward to going back to it, but it doesn't, so bear that in mind and learn these abilities while you can. The game is broken up into 3 different routes during your playthrough. The start of it is Route A, where you solely play as 2B until you beat Eve. Route B basically is the exact same thing as Route A, except you're playing through NieR and his different circumstances. And finally Route C, which starts off after the battle against Eve and sees you alternating between NieR and A2 throughout. The fact that Route B is the same story-wise as Route A can be a little bit of a pain, but it does allow for an entirely new perspective, and also means major story points aren't slammed down your throat every 5 minutes. Not to mention that completing Route A unlocks the voice changer option, which I think speaks for itself. During certain sections you'll be forced into a flight suit, and the gameplay now becomes an on-rail shooter. There isn't really much else to say about these sections. They're pretty basic, and in some cases they can drag out a bit too long. I'm looking at you, Groon. If you're worried about NieR Automata being just another hack and slash, you'll be pleasantly surprised. It's pretty easy to beef up your character with all the different options the game gives you. Obviously you've got your regular leveling up system, which carries through the different routes, but you also have other methods. You can upgrade your weapons to give them different effects, and you can also upgrade your pods to have different abilities. At first you're given this giant laser, but there's a large selection ranging from bombs, a giant hammer, shields, gravity manipulation for crowd control, and my personal favourite, Beyblade mode, which absolutely melts enemies when you have all 3 pods available. If that wasn't enough, there's also a plug-in chip system. Throughout your journey you will find chips that you can equip for many different effects. You're limited with how many you can equip to begin with, but when you've purchased the additional space, you can have the potential to have some crazy combination of chips. You can focus on experience and drop upgrades to level up and gather materials easier, or you can boost your base health and defense to make Goliath enemies hit more like pillows, or you become a glass cannon and get critical hit and taunt upgrades. Taunting is an ability that all characters have to boost their attack for you and the taunted enemy by 150%, so you're basically reducing your defense for extra attack. The thing is, this is never taught to you until you actually buy a plug-in chip, which you're not gonna realistically do if you don't know what it does. Yet another example of the game not actually teaching you what certain mechanics do. This is a real pain to activate as well, especially using a controller, because you've got to keep pressing the left analog stick up and down, which during mid-fight isn't very intuitive to do. There's also fishing. Yeah, I didn't stick around with this for very long. You can get a few secrets by fishing in certain locations, another pod upgrade most notably, but there's no real benefit other than, selling fish for money, and getting mackerel ends up getting you one of the joke endings. As I mentioned, there are 26 obtainable endings for this game. The 5 I've already gone through are the main story ones, while the remaining 21 are considered joke endings. None of them bear any consequence to the actual game, except when you accidentally get one and you're sent back to the last save. That's a little annoying. I won't go through all of them, as some of them are best experienced blind, but I ended up getting an ending multiple times without even realising. When you first gain control of NieR during Route B, you were meant to go to your flight unit. However, I must have not been paying attention or something, because I kept on going in a complete different direction, and it kept on saying that I got an ending because I kept deserting the battlefield. No! This happened to me 3 times. However, this is the only time I actually experienced something like this, and there are some really good ones, which are all, relatively easy to obtain as well. Except for ending Y, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I have mixed opinions of the side quests in this game. If you're the type of person who enjoys the destination over the journey, then you'll enjoy what's to offer here. But if you prefer the journey, then you're not going to find much to write home about. Most of them, if not all of them, are just fetch quests and escort missions. Don't get me wrong, there are some that stand out, like the Sensei machine, who will keep challenging you in order to train you in his ways. But they are few and far between. But as I said, the rewards are genuinely pretty cool. They can range from materials for upgrades, weapons, pod programs, or simply just building the world, which I think is a really good idea. Going back to Ending Y, it may as well be a canon ending because good lord, it takes so long to get. In addition to needing to be level 99, you also need to have found every weapon in the game and upgraded them all to level 4, which is their max level. I swear, it took me longer to do this than it did to finish the main game. The culprit for this ending is Emil, another returning character from the original game. You actually meet him after you enter the forest and later runs a shop with some of the rarest materials and items in the game. Do yourself a favour and do not do this quest if you have not completed the first game. Emil is a main character from NieR and you will get so much more out of this ending if you actually know Emil's full story. I don't own any physical game soundtracks, but I am certainly wanting to change that. This is spectacular. From themes like Bipolar Nightmare and Emil's Despair, to the amazing credits theme of Way to the World, to just the relaxing ambience when travelling through the different areas, it's all great stuff. You ever heard of Dark Souls? Yeah, no, I haven't either, but apparently dying in this game is very similar to that one. Should you die, you are taken back to the last area you saved in with all of your plug-in chips and held items gone. Returning to the place you died allows you to restore all of those items from your dead body. All that I've just mentioned is true for the first half of the game. During the second half of the game, if you end up dying, then you just go back to your last save. And this may sound a bit of an odd decision, but I personally actually like this choice, especially considering that it actually makes sense in context of the game. Travelling through this world can be an absolute joy. Not mentioning the PC's piss poor frame rate, the game looks gorgeous and is breathtaking just to pan the camera around and just watch you blast through all these areas with upgraded mobility. But as I said, unless you have a really good PC setup, I would recommend getting the Xbox or PlayStation versions. My first experience of the game was the PC version, and while it was stable enough just for playing, the moment I started to begin recording, the frame rate just decided to plummet. Maybe my PC just isn't high-end enough, but I've seen many issues about this online and not many fixes for it. The console counterparts are not only smoother, but are now normally bundled with the 3C3C1D1194400927 DLC. I'd say that this is worth a purchase on its own. It gives you access to 3 Colosseums which can test your combat and hacking capabilities, a bunch of different outfits and hair customizations for all 3 characters, as well as the 27th ending, which is certainly interesting. The console counterparts also have a few extra cosmetics for your pod, including this snazzy skin of Grimrar Weiss from the original game. Let's be honest, if it wasn't bundled with the game, I'm pretty sure this was the reason that people bought this DLC. Don't kid yourselves. When you beat either Route C or D, you're given access to Chapter Select and the Debug mode. Chapter Select speaks for itself if you can work out what that does, though I will say I am glad to see it unlock when you do, because I think I'd scream if I had to replay the whole of the second half of the game just to choose the other option right at the end. Debug mode is pretty self-explanatory. You can activate it in-game or in a standard arena, and let you play around with different assets. Weapons, enemies, NPCs, that kind of stuff. I didn't really stick around here much, it's just not really my thing. To be honest, that's really all the end-game content you end up getting. I mean, you can go back on the chapter select screen to do all the side quests and unlock all the endings, but there isn't really much past that, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. By completing Route E's bullet hell credit scene, you are given the biggest choice in the entire game, to choose to sacrifice your save data to help someone struggling in the bullet hell that was just mentioned. And I don't just mean your current save file, I mean everything. Your entire game data is completely reset. Now this isn't really a big deal if you're on PC, because you can always just back up your save files and just put them back in afterwards, but on console, there's no way to import save files. Trust me, I tried. More on that in a sec. The only thing that you will get in return is a brand new title screen, which is actually pretty damn cool. So as much as I have praised this game, not all is perfect. From the general lack of tutorials explaining how certain mechanics work, to the frustration of meeting the requirements for ending Y, to the general lack of walls in this game. It's not really a massive deal, but it's extremely easy to get out of bounds in this game. It's actually pretty fun. Just make sure that you don't hardlock yourself like I did while filming NieR's section of the game. I performed a glitch which allows me to get to the coast area before I should have. I ended up saving before I had access to teleporting, and now I have a 14-hour in-game save file collecting dust. Anyway, this video has been going on for quite a while now, so let's begin wrapping things up. Honestly, this game is brilliant. The gameplay is fun and exciting with a gorgeous world to explore, and with a story that keeps you guessing at almost every turn, it's no wonder this game has received the praise and reputation that it has. If you are looking for a new JRPG or hack and slash, I cannot recommend this game enough. It's genuinely pretty cheap on Steam, being on sale quite often, and the console counterparts are also pretty decently priced. There's also a demo on Steam if you still need that little extra nudge. I feel like I've missed something. Oh, yeah, there's also an ability to self-destruct in the game. It has a pretty decent blast radius and also has the added side effect of removing your clothing. Oh, wow. Oh, guys, we have done it. The video is done. I'm actually in a very odd mood right now because I never thought I'd actually end up finishing this video, since it's been like a year in the making, but we are finally here. And if you guys did enjoy it, please make sure to go and leave a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Leave some feedback in the comments down below, whether it's good or bad, if there's anything you want, anything better, if you liked a certain part, if you want me to do more videos like this in the future. I don't think I'll have them as long as this one, but you know, the possibility's there if the demand is for it. Yeah, I don't really know how else to end off the video. I guess I can thank a few people. I can thank Dopey Squad, you know who you are, for putting up with my constant moaning in the year production of this video, and also my girlfriend for recording, helping me record a few segments back before lockdown happened. I can't do the same setup as I wanted to do with me being in my whole NieR costume. I filmed that at my girlfriend's house because there's more room to do that. My bedroom is very small, as you can see. I don't particularly have much room to do things. I could have got the green screen up, but it would have been too much of a hassle. So I apologise for the inconsistency in that front. If you want me to do another video like this, then you know, you can recommend some games for me. Speaking of recommending some games, it's got nothing to do with recommending anything, but during the production of this video, 2 new NieR games have been announced. NieR Reincarnation, which is going to be a mobile game. I don't believe there's that much information about that one yet. And an updated version of NieR Replicant, which is the Japanese exclusive version of the original NieR. Everyone else in like Europe and the US and other continents got basically what was known as NieR Gestalt, which has an older main character as opposed to Replicant's younger character. Really not too sure what the reasoning behind that was. But yeah, there's an updated version of that, so when that comes along, maybe I'll get around to doing that? Maybe. I don't know at this point. Basically, I'm just going to have a nice break from doing some videos. So, thank you all for watching. Hope you guys have a great day. And yeah, I don't really know how to end off my videos anymore because I don't use the same name. I'll have to think about that.